All right, so I'll turn it over to our guest speakers, Jimmy and Olga, for a discussion about what they're working on and how their work relates to each other's work. So the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, I should say. Hope everybody's okay on this hot Saturday afternoon. I imagine I can share my screen. Is that possible?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, let me see if I can do that. Ooh, and hold on one second, and there you are. Okay, back to that and share screen. Here we go. So I guess I'll just talk over there we go. Over the images here. So our project is called Ciclos. I think some of you know what it is, but I'm gonna imagine that everybody here doesn't know what it is. So bear with me as I speak a little bit about it. Ciclos in Spanish means regarding cycles, and the cycles that we imagine that we work on are material cycles, earth cycles, cycles in healing as well, in the way that we engage with justice and energy and justice and mobility, and obviously that dumps into justice socially and politically for people. What we specifically do at Ciclos is we take discarded bicycles that nobody wants, that may have been initially fabricated and engineered to be a kind of an impulse buy, and then go for maybe a weekend ride, and then they go into garages and they are never seen again. And we take mountain bikes and road bikes and BMX bikes, and we make them into cargo bicycles. Cargo bicycles, like the image of the logo, is a bicycle that has a bay in the front that can carry anything from groceries to working materials if you're an artist or a working person, to your kids or your pets inside of these different kinds of cargo bicycles. Cargo bicycles have been around for some time, been used a lot in Asia, in Europe, in parts of Latin America. But being what it is with our country, cargo bicycles have unfortunately been kind of a boutique thing, and they start at around $3,000. I had a kid about 11 years ago.
Are you sharing your screen right now? We don't see it yet.
Are you seeing the logo?
No.
You don't see anything. Okay, that's bad. I thought I had shared it. What are you seeing? You see me speak?
We see you, Jimmy.
Okay, here we go. Let's try that. Can you see
Got
it?
it?
You can see it now? Okay, here we go. My apologies for that. And never mind.
Yes.
And there we go.
Slide through them to the 11-year-old.
There we go. All right, so as you can see the logo, you've got a regular looking bicycle with a cargo bay in the front there. And as I was saying, these things are quite pricey in our open market. And 11 years ago, I had a kid, and I've never owned a car in my life. So I was looking around to see how I was going to get my new child in my life around LA. And I bumped into cargo bicycles, and they seemed cool, but they were expensive. And I bumped into this guy out in Oregon, who was building cargo bikes out of recycled materials. He was taking old BMXs and old, again, junky bikes and making them to make cargo bicycles. So I thought that was a pretty cool idea. And I wanted to see what it would take to do it, for us in LA. And I thought about all the bicycles that were at the bicycle kitchen that nobody wanted. And I thought that was a really great resource for these bikes. But the big thing is that to sell a cargo bicycle in almost in any city, especially in LA, it's very difficult because they're so expensive, and you've got a culture that doesn't quite understand mobility when it comes to bicycling. We haven't been taught, nor have we had a culture of it long enough to really start to do it on a bigger scale. So one big idea is just educate anyone who's really willing to learn how to make these things and get them out into the community without having to put a price tag on it. At the moment with Ciclos, we are in the prototyping phase. And so we're going to be getting as many bikes out there without charging a fee for them to as many community members of all the ranks to just simply prototype, give us feedback, ride them, and see if we can replace as many car trips as possible with cargo bicycles. And that's in essence what Reciclos does. Here is a picture of one such bicycle that was made by one of our students, our first student actually, out of the Breezy Foundation down the street from the Eco Village, well, in the Eco Village neighborhood down the street from our shop, Relampago Wheelery. And what you're seeing here is a pink bicycle with a wooden bay, and the back is a recycled old Nishiki mountain bike, and the front is a BMX bicycle. Our student, our intern, our apprentice, Aiden, was 16 at the time when he came in and worked on this. And over 10 days, he labored over this thing. He learned how to MIG weld, how to work with some basic fabrication processes to make these things go together. And after 10 days, we had a working bicycle. We were able to actually sell this bicycle to a community member who was trying to deliver bread via this bicycle. And so she walked away, or the road away with this thing and started using it right away in her life. And not too long after, we can report that she actually got rid of her car because this became a replacement to a lot of the things she was doing with her car. So we were quite happy about that. She came back about a month after that, and we put what you can see there is an electric motor on it from Bafang. And Bafang has a factory, or rather an outlet here in Southern California. And I wrote the thing with a motor, and it's quite impressive what you can do all of a sudden with just a little bit of extra help on a cargo bicycle. And it just became even more of a revolution to see how many people we can get actually to ride our bicycles. One of the big messages that we have is that the car infrastructure and the way that Los Angeles and many of the cities have been impacted over the last 100 years of just not very thoughtful infrastructure and engagement with public mobility, is that we cannot keep on doing it. The wall keeps getting closer and closer, where we just cannot support individualized, motorized, private transit for every single citizen, especially in a place like Los Angeles. So we kind of like the bicycle kitchen are aiming to simply put as many cargo bicycles on the road as possible to make it available to anybody who's willing to transpose a few of their car trips on a daily or even a weekly basis. One of our current and next clients, prototypers, is going to be actually Jessica Rubalcaba, who's got 3 children, and she's got quite a commute ahead of her. So we're going to be building a really awesome cargo bike for her to get her children around. Collaborations are key here, and collaborations with both community members and community organizations are the way that we're going to start to really collectively impact the way that bicycles are seen, the way that mobility is seen, and the way that we start to re-engage with the realities of the environment, the realities of global warming, the realities of petroleum fueled wars. So any folks from gang prevention to houseless outreach to environmental awareness, all these different organizations have community members who care and who are looking for something like a cargo bicycle to just help them do one small thing amongst the many things they do in their lives to be able to affect our world positively. Bicycles and cargo bicycles may not be the fix-all to all of the problems, but they're definitely a big step in the right direction toward equity in energy, equity in mobility, and equity in extractivism that we require for one single, even the most quote unquote, fuel efficient car on the market. Even one of those has a huge impact. So we do believe that changing the way that we get things around is vital. And so, like we said, we take recycled materials and we weld them together in the most basic possible fashion that we know about. While building a bicycle can take some pretty high-tech stuff, and there are exotic materials and exotic machines that build bicycles, we find that with bicycles that are bound for a landfill or bound for metal recycling, in these things you find some amazing tools that are free. They're inside of our communities, and reimagined, refabricated, become gold for a ton of different people. Again, anyone from who could be houseless to someone who really wants to make an impact on their daily lives just by not getting in a car and instead going to the store 5 miles away on a cargo bike instead. In this photo up to the right in the green little box there, you'll see what is a MIG welder, flux core. That's about $150 at Harbor Freight. And with that small machine that plugs into a regular outlet, 110, we can do all of the welding that's required. So you don't need a super high-tech machine, a welding machine, to do the work that we do. In fact, a lot of the materials that we use are very low-tech, very understandable. So these kinds of approaches to recycling bicycles and rebuilding them can happen in LA. They can happen in a rural setting. They can happen anywhere that's got some basic electricity going and some really basic skill sets going to do it safely, efficiently, and with very little waste in the process. And then finally, again, working with communities locally, these are 3 young interns from New Village Girls Academy, an all girl academy in a historic Filipino town. And they're here working on their own bikes at the moment, but eventually we're going to work with them to build a cargo bicycle for one of their instructors and organizers at their school to have their work at work immediately in their community in front of their own eyes. The work we do is for them. You know, they're young, they're 14, they're 15 years old, and they are inheriting an LA and a world that wasn't thinking about them so much. They were thinking more about profit. So for us, the profit is seeing a thriving place that isn't dedicated for car parking. A thriving place where you have parks and schools and just places for humans to play and use their bodies, and not just places to store a vehicle that is wasteful, that causes wars, that is isolationist, and makes it a very hostile everyday existence. We strongly believe that it is their future that we're working on, and we're just proud and lucky that we have a tool here, mostly free, to help them in those directions. We received a grant recently from the U.S. Energy Foundation. And so we've hired a few folks now, Jeremy Ezra from the Bicycle Kitchen, and Bea Miller, who runs in many different circles in the bicycle scene. These folks bring with them a long history of working on bicycles, of mechanics, of community engagement, and a lot of creativity and just energy to see the future in a way that doesn't include cars, and a lot of fun is included in the process instead. So yeah, that's who we are. That's what we do. And if you know anybody who needs a cargo bicycle in their life, please have them reach out to us. We really are looking for a few folks who are down to ride, who are down to be recorded in the process, and just give us some feedback on how we can improve the bicycles that we are creating. Thank you.
Thank you.
How do I stop my share? Stop share. Look at that. Boom.
Thank you, Jimmy. That was so inspiring. Thank you for sharing that. And I learned some stuff that I didn't know too.
Yes.
Angela?
Thank you so much, Jimmy. So can I bring Olga up to talk about Healthy Streets LA?
Awesome. Can I also share my screen? Oh yeah, it looks like it's enabled. Can everybody see? Hang on, it's not loaded. Can everyone see that? Awesome. So my name is Olga. I'm the field organizer for Healthy Streets LA, which is a city ballot measure campaign. We're fighting for less traffic, we're fighting against climate change, and we're fighting for safer streets for everybody. A few things, some of you have probably heard a lot of these facts, but gridlock is a massive, traffic as well, massive drain on our local economy. We know many people who sit in their cars for hours every week. It's an absolute time suck for most people in Los Angeles. At the same time, right now, a lot of pedestrians, a lot of cyclists are being killed in car accidents. A pedestrian dies in LA once every 3 days. And a lot of that has to do with the way that our roads are designed for cars to be able to go as fast as possible. There's streets that don't prioritize people, families, bicyclists. Our pedestrian fatality rate is 4 times higher than the rest of the US. We have something specifically in our city called the high injury network, which is the 6% of streets in LA that are responsible for 80% of traffic injuries. It's a huge problem. But at the same time, while LA is seen as a car city, 50% of car trips are actually 3 miles or less. 66% of them are 5 miles or less. And these are both distances that can easily be accommodated by better bus schedules and better bike infrastructure. So folks don't have to drive 3 miles to go to the grocery store or run an errand. Another reason we're fighting for this right now, LA has the highest rates of childhood asthma. As an asthmatic myself, it's become much worse since moving to LA 11 years ago for me. Even if you don't smoke cigarettes, just being outside in LA is the equivalent of smoking 4 cigarettes a day. So being here kind of makes us all chain smokers. And the stuff we want to change is evidenced by something that City Council passed called the Mobility Plan in 2015. So on the left, you have the high injury network. These are the streets I mentioned where the majority of cyclists, pedestrians get hit by cars. And on the right is the Mobility Plan, which the City of LA came up with to try to mitigate some of these accidents that are happening. The issue is when they passed it in 2015, the 1,500 miles of improvements that it would have included, bike lanes, bus lanes, pedestrian infrastructure, were made optional. So city council members can veto their implementation, which is why only 3% of it has actually been implemented since 2015. And the goal is to get it all in by 2035. But at this current rate, it would take another 200 years to actually implement. The mobility plan would make our streets much safer, but we haven't done basically any of it. You may have seen us in the LA Times recently. We're trying to get the word out that we have a ballot measure that would basically require the city to actually implement this mobility plan. If we get on the ballot, our polling showed that the majority of voters would support this. So right now we're working to get 60,000 signatures just to get on the ballot. Just as an example of some of the stuff we do, and this graphic I have here doesn't work all the time, so it might not actually work. Yeah, we have a little video that reimagines a street for Venice Boulevard, but sometimes it doesn't load on Zoom for some reason. Oh wait, maybe it will. There we go. Okay, cool. So every time we repave a street, we basically have the opportunity to change the way it's aligned and implement the mobility plan at no cost, because we're just changing the paint basically. So as an example, here's how Venice Boulevard might look based on the mobility plan. So we know Venice Boulevard is super wide. We could add a bike lane, we could add a bus lane, still have 2 lanes of traffic in either direction, but make it overall a much more pleasant road to be on that doesn't have freeway speeds, a road that people can actually walk down. There's a farmer's market along Venice Boulevard in my neighborhood. And all of these things are part of the mobility plan, which we're not implementing. So again, we are trying to mandate that the city automatically implements this plan every time a street gets repaved. And the schedule is decided ahead of time. It's basically every 4 or 5 years or so, pretty much every major street is repaved, or it's supposed to be. And so in just a matter of a few years, we could transform LA if we get this on the ballot. Our streets would be much safer, even if you're a car driver. You don't walk, you don't bike, you don't take transit. Slowing down speeds, having more lanes for alternate modes of transit actually makes the road safer for drivers as well. We want alternatives to driving, especially for short trips. We live in a city where many people are not used to walking, a mile to get to the grocery store. A lot of people want to drive instead. And part of that is because there's no real alternatives. We just experienced massive bus schedule cuts that make people even more reluctant to take the bus, for example. We don't have good access to things like cargo bikes so that people can just bike to the grocery store. There's a lot of people who actually want to use these alternatives and not have to drive. And if we can implement them so that people can use them, in most major cities, 70% or so of people say that they would easily get rid of their car if there were better public transit and bike infrastructure. And by implementing all of these things, we would have a healthier city for everybody. This is really a plan that benefits every single person in LA, no matter how they get around. We already have a big coalition, supporting us. Move LA, LA Walks, the LA County Bicycle Coalition, Unite Here Local 11, Climate Resolve, I'm with Streets for All. Basically, every organization we approach supports this measure because it's common sense, and this is something that the majority of people want. We're working on talking to other community groups to get folks to circulate our petition. Pretty much anyone can request a petition from us if they want to get their friends and family to sign. And we have a pretty robust schedule of events where we come with petitions. I was at Silver Lake Farmers Market this morning, and I go to farmers markets basically every day of the week to get people to sign, because that's how we're going to get on the ballot. So if anyone here is interested in signing the petition, volunteering to collect signatures, or even just spreading the word, you can go to healthystreetsla.com. Basically, we have a plethora of resources there. You can see what events we'll be at. You can see we're actually hiring paid canvassers if you're interested in working with us to get folks to sign the ballot. It's going to be a big effort from every community in LA. So the more hands we have, the merrier. And if anyone has any questions or wants to just reach out and talk about it, feel free to reach us out at this email. It's contact@healthystreetsla.com. Awesome, Tyler. Yeah, I have a petition that I bring to every party, and it's it's my thing now. I'm the annoying for democracy friend. That's about it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Olga. Yeah, so I brought Jimmy and Olga together on this presentation because, when we talk about Los Angeles, the image that we have is that it is a car city. That's what we're known for across the world. But then when you really live here, you realize that there are people like Jimmy who's been working for years and years, trying to make it easier for people to have bikes, no matter your circumstances and needs. And then there are like initiatives and campaigns like Healthy Streets LA, and the LA mobility plan that is trying to make it easier for people to get around on an infrastructure level. So we have like the micro scale and the macro scale all kind of working together. And I feel like it really shows how much change is possible when you bring all of these elements together. And like living here, I've realized that there's a huge group of people who are advocating for this and who are wanting more bike lanes, better bus, better public transit in general. And so all we really have to do now is to work to make it happen. So that is my spiel, but I want to open the floor to questions. I think maybe let's do the prize drawing first, and then we can just have like a period of questions, answers, comments, conversations. How does that sound for everybody?
Sounds good to me.
Great. Okay, so we'll do the prize drawing really quickly. I'm gonna share my screen again. Give me one moment. Okay, so basically I'm using this random name picker to pick prizes, the prize winners. And I've put all of your names in. I've included Olga and Jimmy today as well. So yeah, you'll also have a chance to win one of these prizes. So, okay, let me run it and we will see who the grand prize winner is. So drum roll. Carol.
Ta-da.
Carol, I can't hear you. Carol, you're muted.
Sorry, I guess my headphone wasn't working. Pass to the next person. I've already won stuff.
Oh, okay. Okay, so then I'll pick another name for the grand prize of $100 cash. Olga, you're the lucky winner.
Woo!
Woohoo! Okay, so now I'm gonna pick the second prize winner, Rory. So you'll have your first pick of the items, the 3 items that I showed earlier.
Okay, cool.
And then
I'll
the
have to think
third
about it. Thank you.
prize, the third prize winner will be David. David, are you here? I think David might have left. So I'll pick another name. Tyler, you're our third prize winner. Okay, awesome. Rory and Tyler, I will ask you your preferred prize later on. But right now we can transition into questions. So I think that Tyler had a question for Jimmy.
Sure. So fun. Wow. I have never won a prize. This is great. Yeah, I'm so grateful to hear from you, Jimmy, and from Olga. It's like I have lots of questions for both of you. So thanks for the work you're doing. I wanted to ask you a question, Jimmy, because you had kind of referenced this, but I was curious about more specifics. Have y'all had any instances of providing these cargo bikes to folks who are experiencing homelessness? I feel like you mentioned that, but I asked partially because I'm a part of a group called SELA that does a lot of encampment outreach in my neighborhood, in the surrounding neighborhoods, and I was just curious because I see folks, I've seen unhoused folks who have built their own sort of like makeshift sort of cargo bike situation. So I'm curious what interactions, if any, y'all have had with folks in the unhoused community.
So far we haven't given any out yet to houseless individuals, but we're actually at this very moment working on one that we're going to be giving away to a local person who we promised a bike to. So that'll be kind of our first prototype, but
Okay.
But beyond that, we're going to be reaching out to Path and other organizations. Could
Sure.
be your organization if you're if you could identify a community member that you think would really use it and would be available to interface with us documenting the process, we'd be very, very, very happy to help.
Sure.
So.
Cool. Yeah, that's we work with a lot of folks who live on the LA River, so I think there's like a lot of possibility for that. So yeah, cool. We'll talk. That's great. I'm
fantastic. Yeah,
happy to hear.
You can reach us at LA Reciclos@gmail.com.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Can you
it's-
put that in the chat real quick? Is
I
that
can
cool?
do that. I can do that
Cool.
right
Thank you.
for sure.
So Jimmy, I have a question too, if I
So
can.
actually, Lois, could we get Carol? She has a comment.
Sure.
I just want to let people know who are living nearby, I have the petition to sign that Olga talked about. So anybody wants to sign it could see me if you live around here. You get
Okay,
that?
Lois. You had a question, Lois?
Yes, thank you. For Jimmy, you mentioned the electric assist that you were putting on one of the bikes, and I thought you called it the Thing. I'm not sure what you called it, but I'm wondering whether that is kind of a portable thing that you can put on and or take off.
The company name is Bafang, BAFANG.
Oh, yeah, it shows you something about my hearing. VA, I got it.
And
Which tracks-
what's cool about it, it's an add-on, so you can add it onto an existing conventional bottom bracket bicycle, and so you can make almost any bicycle into an electric assist bicycle. And it can be relatively inexpensive, although the requirements for a cargo bicycle or even a tandem are a little greater than a lot of those add-ons can actually do. But for a basic cargo bike, it really is a good match.
And roughly how much does it cost?
You can get it for as little as $800 roughly. So that we at the moment are not offering that service, but anyone who wants to put it on, we're happy to work with them if they want to provide us with that motor.
Thank you. And then for Olga, I loved your talk, and I'm so glad that we recorded it because I want to listen to it a few more times to get all those stats down. And also, are you open to any more organizational sponsors of this?
Yeah, definitely. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'm dropping Michael at streetsforall.org in the chat. He's in charge of getting organizations on board.
Great, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, Tyler, go ahead.
I actually just realized that maybe Carol had her hand up first. I see that her hand is up.
no.
Was that from earlier? Okay, yeah, I do that with the hand up all the time. So I understand. Yeah, as I commented, I mean, I'm a supporter, and I've tried to get people to sign the petition and stuff. But it was helpful to hear you talk through it in the way that you did, and it kind of made me interested in and maybe this is something or maybe not, but I'm curious kind of where the inspiration for the model of this measure came from, if there's other cities where this kind of initiative has been passed in order to push to enforce a plan that's already been done, where that kind of idea came from, if there's a precedent from it for it as well. I'm just kind of curious about that.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. My thing just froze. Could you just repeat that one more time?
Sure. Yeah. Basically, I am curious, as someone who is a supporter of the initiative and has, trying to get people to sign it, to understand kind of where the inspiration for this kind of idea came from, if there's a precedent from another city where this has happened, or kind of how did it come about? Because I just feel it's a unique sort of tactic to try to push enforcement on something that already exists. So just curious.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it is very unprecedented. We really haven't seen anything like this before. But at the end of the day, it is a very like minor change to something that has already been approved. So the idea is that, you know, most ballot measures are very partisan, but LA is also one of the places where like doing a ballot measure is kind of the way to do direct democracy if the government isn't, you know, doing stuff for you. So we just kind of figured, I mean, I've talked to a few other ballot measure campaigns, and it's usually the city government is just not, you know, cooperating, and it's kind of the only way to force their hand by proving that the majority of people want this. Otherwise, it's very easy for them to brush you off. But I think for us, especially, the idea that like for the city, that something they passed didn't work and we're going to make them do it, we think might scare them enough to actually just go for it. I think it also, in my opinion, gives the city a good out for why, for example, if there is a new bike lane put in and people try to protest it and say, we don't want to lose a lane of traffic, I think it gives good backup to the city to be able to say, well, it's actually the law. We have to implement this. And if we don't, we might get sued. So it's a bit more of a, to me, like really final measure to try when something just hasn't been working. Like even, for example, I'm on the west side where CD11 has tried to implement bike lanes and bus lanes, and local people are able to have them removed. And the mayor actually played a huge role in removing a road diet that was happening on the west side. So a lot of times it's really just if you have electeds who are afraid to do something that is still overwhelmingly popular, we feel like it's a strategy that could work. Ballot measures are hard though. It requires a lot of organizing. 60,000 signatures is a lot. It doesn't seem like it, but it really is difficult to do. So you do need resources is the only issue.
Carol, you had your hand up.
Can you hear me? No.
Yes.
Okay. So one of the things that I like about this measure is that it says that when the city is repairing even 1/8 of a mile of a road, they have to make these changes and consider all the points of different modes of transportation, including cars. So that's a big plus for me, that it really says do it even if you're just doing this little bit of road.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think a lot of times we get like, well, we can't just shut down a street and, you know, make these changes. The reality is, for example, I live very close to Culver City, and the Move Culver City plan has been overwhelmingly embraced. Like people love it. Culver City is more vibrant than ever as now like a mostly walking and biking destination. But you do get a loud vocal minority of people who push back on it. And the research kind of shows that it can take 9 months to a year for that kind of plan to be implemented before people get used to it and stop, you know, pushing back on it. So it's, for me, like doing it incrementally has worked elsewhere in LA, like in Culver City, you know, they are just doing segments like one at a time and then connecting them. I think that helps with creating a larger network really well. Because especially, you know, if you put down 1/8 of a mile on Wilshire of bike lanes, the next logical step is, well, we're not going to repave that and take away the bike lane. The next thing we repave, we're going to have to add a bike lane so that it connects to the other bike lane. So there is kind of like a domino effect with that I think can be helpful. But yeah, it is. Honestly, for me, it's a little incremental for my taste. If I could, I would literally take a lane off of Wilshire today and put an entire bike lane down. But people sometimes need time to get used to stuff, so I'll accept it.
Jimmy.
Just as if you can remind me, when is the deadline to get signatures for, what's the final date to get the signatures for the ballot?
Yeah, so we're turning these in 60 days, about 60 days. We're hoping to have most of them in by like end of April, just so we can inventory how many more signatures we actually need. Because we have a whole process of validating each signature, making sure they're all going to pass the city clerk's checking. So yeah, we're hoping mid-April, but the end of May is our actual drop date.
And where are you now right now? How many signatures have you gathered so far?
It's hard to say. We've confirmed at least 5,000 signatures, but we have like 10,000 packets floating around with different volunteers. You know, some people are getting 7 signatures. Some people are getting 2 signatures from a friend and themselves. Some people are filling out an entire packet. So we don't have a solid idea right now, which is why we're trying to get a better idea by mid-April of how much we actually have. Because it usually, between the time somebody signs and it gets returned to us and then validated by our QA team and scanned, it can take like 3 to 4 weeks. So like we could have anywhere between 10 and 15,000 right now, but it would be hard to measure. So yeah, that's a tricky thing with ballot measures.
Okay, cool.
But we try to do 1,000 signatures a day is the goal. So that should help inform where we're at roughly.
Gail, I'm gonna have to bounce. I've got some other commitments for the rest of the day, but thank you all for listening. Thank you all for the work that you're all doing, and yeah, let's get those ballot measure signatures in, and hit me up later on, Olga. I'm thinking about some possibilities where we can help you out. So, okay, bye everybody.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, everybody. If you had any other questions, feel free to pipe up, but otherwise we can wrap up. I just want to drop a couple of links in the chat. So we will only have 2 more events coming up in our grant program, and that is one karaoke bike ride sometime early May, and our April workshop, which is on April 23rd, which we'll be having a ton of other like connected events in observance of Earth Day around that time as well. So Jessica just dropped a few links in the chat. You can go to this link tree that has everything that you'll ever want with us. You can go to our website. You can sign up for our remaining events. You can sign a pledge to save energy and save water. We really encourage you to sign the pledge. You can also subscribe to our mailing list where you can keep up with us, and you can also find us on Instagram. Our Instagram and YouTube channel links are also in the chat as well. So find us on the internet, keep in touch with us, and we hope to see you at our future events. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Olga.
And yeah, special thanks to our speakers, Olga and Jimmy. Thank you so much again. And yeah, keep in touch with us, connect with us. And we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.